The best education in the world is useless if the student doesn't survive with a healthy mind and body. And that was Connie and Howard Clery.
Okay, Connie and Howard.
Right?
This is Jen.
This is Becky.
And this is Too Close to Home. Hey!
This episode is going to be a little bit more, probably not going to be a lot of jokes. It's a little bit more serious.
We could do cereal sometimes.
I mean, we might be able to make fun of the perpetrator.
I love making fun of perpetrators.
I live for it.
It's here. Listen, if you commit a crime, don't expect me not to make fun of you, okay?
So we're going to talk about Jean Clery and the Clery Act, which everybody knows about, but you don't realize that you know about it. But I'll educate y'all.
Oh, lay it down for us.
Okay. So Jean Clery was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, tennis-playing, ambitious 19-year-old enjoying her freshman year at Lehigh University in Pennsylvania. While growing up, Jean was always a tomboy and athletic. She was always described as friendly and quiet. She loved playing tennis and cricket with her mother, who she was very close to.
Who plays tennis and cricket, though, these days? When was this?
80s.
Okay, yeah. I was like, they stopped playing that in Victorian area. I don't know.
Well, first of all, you have to be rich to have those as your hobbies.
Yeah.
So it could be very popular, but we don't run with that crowd.
No, we don't. That's a different tax bracket.
Totally different. She became a ranked amateur tennis player and had plans to play tennis in high school. She was born to well-to-do parents and two older brothers. Jean Clery was originally supposed to attend Tulane University in New Orleans. Her two brothers had graduated from there, and so it was just kind of always their plan. Her two older brothers went there and graduated. That's where she was going to go. She'd been accepted. They had their plan already. She was already admitted, and she was set to play for the school's tennis team. The Clerys were also on the university's parent council. So we already got cricket, tennis. You're on the parent counselor of the college. Obviously, they're very well to do.
Very well. I bet you they're white.
Nobody wants me on a council giving my opinion.
Feels very waspy.
In October of 1984, her family traveled to New Orleans to do a visit to the school. While at a private meeting, the university president told them of a horrible murder of a Tulane student, sophomore, Karen Mencken.
What, they were touring the school as to go to the school, or they were just visiting New Orleans?
So she was a senior, and so they went to Tulane.
And that's when the Tulane was like, you know what? This is a great marketing tool. Let me tell you about this murder.
Well, in their defense, they were trying to be transparent about
true.
What was going on. And so you can be aware of the situation, have your head on a swivel because bad shit happens.
Exactly. There you go. That's a better way to put it. I'm sitting here going like, that is not how you sell it.
And, I thought that too. But when you get to
when you think about it,
and you learn about the Clery Act, you're going to be like,
okay, good on you.
All right, props to you. Props to you, Tulane. Doing what you should be doing.
Doing what you should.
You see something, you say something.
See something. That's my favorite.
Jean's mother immediately began panicking and said she was not going to Tulane. So they started searching for a new school right away, as they had no backup plans for where she was to attend the next year. And that, again, shows you some rich people stuff, because they're like, oh, no, we have to immediately find another college. You still got a year. Like, chill.
I mean,
but,
it's like gap year time, dog.
I'm sure our lifestyles are extremely different.
Very, there's this, what did they say? Robin Leach with caviar wishes and champagne dreams. I like cheese whiz.
Right.
And cracker dreams, okay?
Nothing about fish eggs is appetizing to me. They searched for a school near their home, and Jean fell in love with Lehigh University, with its stone buildings interwoven through a wooded campus of 1,600 acres at the top of a hill overlooking the city. Connie said that when she visited Lehigh, she thought it looked safe. But like a lot of schools and hospitals and different state and government-run areas, the school bumped against some of the roughest areas on the south side of the city, with crime spilling onto the campus. So we all know a lot of county hospitals and schools, they get the cheapest land. And the cheapest land is a lot of times in crime-infested areas.
New Orleans is pretty
known for being
it's one of the most dangerous cities.
Really angelic and not a lot of crime.
No,
and just
people leave their doors unlocked.
JK. When the Clerys were looking at colleges for Jean to attend. That time, there were no statistics about crime on university campuses. No one had warned of any of the troubles, crimes, or about the campus being unsafe. The Clerys later learned there had been 38 violent crimes, including rapes, robberies, and assaults on the campus in the 3 years before her attending the university. So that's where you kind of start looking at it different, like, well, this place didn't fucking tell y'all because they wanted to keep people coming.
Yeah.
And Tulane was like, let's be upfront and honest with you.
I'm going to tell you, dog, you're probably going to need to carry some bear spray.
Yeah. We need you to be alert and understand, like, I don't want to say like shit happens, but stuff happens, but we want you to know.
Be cognizant. Yeah.
Penn State University, which is many times larger, had only 24 during the same time period, according to several reports. So the school she picked was a smaller school, but yeah, you got Penn State, and that school had more crimes than Penn State. So it tells you the kind of area that was surrounding it.
No Jerry Sandusky.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. He might have been there then.
Yikes.
Jean's first semester went well. When spring semester started, Jean went home and visited family. A few days later, she returned from spring break in 1986. So she went home for like the Easter spring break, visited her family, and came back. The 19-year-old was asleep in her dorm after returning from a party on April 4th. Jean had attended a fraternity party on campus with her friend Susan. They left the first party, went to a second party, and at that second party, they got separated. Well, Jean went ahead and returned to the dorm, and she got there around 3 a.m. She went to her friend Susan's room to see, well, did she make it back? Like, I made it back. Well, Susan's roommate told her no, she was not back. Jean passed a male friend in the hallway. They chatted for a bit, and then she headed to her room. Now, Jean had a roommate, Sarah, and Sarah had a date that night. The week before, she had misplaced her room key, so she asked Jean to leave the door unlocked for her. I know. So she left the door unlocked. Now, her friend Susan that went to the parties with her, she returned to the dorm around 4:30, 4:45. Her roommate told her that Jean had stopped by, so she headed to Jean's room, knocked on the door, didn't get an answer, but noticed it was unlocked, so she peeked in, and she saw Jean was covered up in the fetal position with all the lights off. So she's like, oh, she's asleep.
Yeah.
So she bounced, went on back. Around 7:40, Richard Petrino was on his way to a frat house to clean where he was a pledge. On his way out, he passed Jean's room. Her door was wide open and she was naked from the waist down.
Oh.
And he said, I just kept walking, he would later say.
A lot of people, like, I mean, we all would like to say, oh, why wouldn't you stop? But there's been plenty of times, like, crimes have happened and you have, like, this denial in your brain, like, no, not, it's not happening in front of me.
Well, and apparently she was laying on her stomach with her head pointed away from the door towards the window, and she was half dressed. And so I'm sure he thought she probably got wasted, came back, passed out on her bed.
This may be an avant-garde work or something,
I'm
artwork
sure
or something.
It's a regular occurrence on a college campus to see that kind of shit.
Damn it, Susan. We told you to lay off the rumple mints.
Susan would later go to her room at 11:29 a.m. the next day. She also noted that Jean's door was wide open, so she went to check on her. The room was disarray, and Jean was naked except for a shirt bunched up around her chest. So Susan was like, oh, shit, let me close this door, get you together, girl.
Yeah, like, girl, what'd I tell you? Lay it off.
She was again laying on her stomach with her face towards the wall. Susan said she walked up to her, covered her up, and tried to wake her up. When Jean wouldn't respond, leaned over the bed, and that's when she seen all the blood. So walking by, you couldn't see it all.
It was just on the other side out of view.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Which is why people walked by and nobody stopped and did anything.
People are like, whoop, vagina.
Exactly. When Jean wouldn't respond and she seen the blood, Susan ran for the RA and they alerted a student who had training in first aid. The student felt for a pulse but did not find one. The police arrived a few minutes later. The first paramedic on the scene first believed he was dealing with an overdose. Then he went in as they walk in again. You don't see the blood or anything.
Yeah, I was like, did homie see? Cause he's the worst paramedic.
So he's like, oh shit, someone OD'd.
Like, and then, you come in and you're missing a finger. Oh my God, is it a heart attack?
The first things they seen is they found a ring in her hand and a slinky toy under the bed. Jean was pronounced dead at the scene at 12:39. Time of death was determined to be approximately 5 a.m. The same day, the Clerys had been vacationing in Bermuda. As they arrived home in a taxi, they saw police cars in their driveway. Connie insisted on saying the Lord's Prayer before talking to the police. So she said they got home, they seen all these cops, and she told her husband, don't open the door yet. And they said a prayer and then got out. She was like, I knew something was seriously wrong. Then they learned the horrible news. The police told them at the time the cause of death was unknown, but suspicious.
Yeah.
By the next day, the truth would come out. I couldn't believe this could happen to my wonderful child, Clery said in an emotional interview with the Arizona Republic almost 30 years after the crime. In the best place, it looked so safe. Imagine the guilt you feel that your child was supposed to go to a different college. You thought it was unsafe, and you send her to this one that's supposed to be safe, and she doesn't even make it through the first year.
Yeah.
The autopsy would reveal that Jean had been beaten, kicked, bitten on both cheeks and one of her breasts. Her entire body was bruised. Her throat had been slashed multiple times with a broken beer bottle. She'd been sexually assaulted and sodomized so roughly that her internal tissues were torn. She was ultimately strangled by the metal slinky that her roommate identified came from their room.
That is horrifying. That poor girl.
And so apparently the first thing he did was cut her throat with a beer bottle, but it didn't kill her. So then he just started beating her, raping her, all of that. And at one point, he was like dragging the beer bottle over her body, just like torturing her.
Oh my God.
Before he strangled her with the metal slinky. Yeah. Horrible. So this all happened on April 4th. On April 7th, it was announced that another student was being held for this crime. Joseph Henry, a 20-year-old sophomore from Newark, New Jersey. He was being questioned after a tip to police came in that he had assaulted a girl and stole her belongings. He also reportedly admitted to killing her to another friend. He told multiple friends variations of what had happened, but different details were divulged to the friends. He like immediately went home and after killing her, and his one roommate woke up and was like, oh, hey, where were you? And he was like, oh, I just robbed and killed this girl. And his roommate was like, what? And he's like, yeah, look at all this stuff I got. And starts telling him everything he did. And the guy was like, obviously having like a normal reaction of like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And like started kind of freaking out. And then the guy was like, I'm just fucking with you. And he was like, man, it's too early to be joking about stuff like that. You really had me going. And
what he saw was the real reaction be like, oh no, we gotta backpedal this. It's a joke.
Yes. But then he started telling other people. And for a while, I say a while, it was only 3 days before he got caught. But at first, everybody just thought he was like fucking around and whatnot. And then when they heard about what happened, then they were like, ooh, we should probably go tell the police. And so multiple friends went and told.
Could you imagine you're like that happening to you, being that friend, be like, you did what? Oh, you joke? Okay. And then hearing about it, like how the sinking feeling in your chest, like,
oh, yeah.
Oh, fuck, that really was real.
Yeah. Like, oh, what this motherfucker get me into?
Like, now I gotta be able to witness stand and shit.
That would be my thought.
It's a shitty Tuesday, okay?
It is really shitty. When the friends went to the police executed a search warrant and they showed up to his apartment. They found her roommate's gold ring, Jean's boombox, and her wallet with her identification and everything in it. They also found a piece of bloodstained curtain from her room. So they got there and they were like, oh, well, we're going to be able to wrap this up in a nice, tidy box. We know exactly.
Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
Joseph Henry, he lived off campus and had entered her dorm room through a series of 3 doors that had been propped open by pizza boxes so students could easily pass through them. So the doors were locked, just like in like apartment complexes you see where the main door is locked and you have to be buzzed in or get in.
That's such a gap in physical security.
Yeah.
If I didn't just spend 6 months learning about fucking cybersecurity and shit. You know how many times they talk about piggybacking and that's fucking course so many times. I was like, I did not realize this was such a rampant problem.
And you know, these poor kids, they don't understand the stuff that happens. And I get it. They're tired of having to open the door, but unfortunately it leads to
The
things like that.
systems are there for a reason, kids.
After he strangled her, he stole the belongings, which were later found on him, and left. As he was about to sneak out of the building, he thought he had dropped his wallet in her room, so he stashed her radio camera and other items stolen in the basement laundry, and he went back to look for it. Probably at that time, he bit her all over, just to make sure she was dead, Connie Clery was later said in an interview. He bit her so hard that he bit through her cheeks. Yeah.
And he did it multiple times, too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God.
He left the wide gap bite marks that helped to convict him. He says he went back to look for his wallet. Everybody else thinks he went back to make sure she was dead and then torture her a little bit more. Because he had told one roommate, she could identify me. I couldn't leave her alive. And so that's what they really think why he went back.
Yeah, you definitely didn't drop your fucking wallet. No.
Henry then returned to his off-campus apartment, dumped his loot into a black garbage bag, and put it alongside the trash out back for temporary safekeeping.
Such a safe spot.
Such a safe spot. The crime was random. He originally entered the dorm just to steal, but then she was there. Henry was a former honor student who flunked out of school before coming back. He had no prior record. So the night before, he'd been out all night drinking, and he went out drinking after losing a class election. Apparently, he lost by 1 point, and he thought it was like rigged. So he was black.
You tell me.
In the 80s
I was about
college.
to say, I was like, are you telling me he was pulling a Donald Trump? We were about to have another, like, January 6th on our hands.
Yes, exactly.
I stole it!
The same night that he was out drinking, a friend that had been friends with him for years seen him and said he was acting really strange, almost like he was on drugs, saying really random things, just acting not himself. And this is all before the murder. She seen him the next day and said he was back to acting his normal self. So they figured he was just upset about the election, had been drinking, maybe did some drugs.
Yeah.
He had zero prior convictions for anything or had done anything. They said that night, they went into a lot of detail about him at the party that night, but I didn't really care to cover him too much. And said that night he had displayed some violent episodes, but it was more stuff that I was like, you're being fast and loose with the word violent. Because they said, like, he was, really upset about the election. He was talking to one friend and he punched a wall. And I'm like, well, he's a young, early teen, 20-year-old man.
Who has a hard time,
like that.
Still having a hard time probably controlling his emotions.
Yeah, so I'm like, is it violent to punch a wall? It is. But y'all are also throwing it out there like he was punching folks and stuff.
Yeah.
He was being a dumb 20-year-old.
Yeah. It's just perplexing because of how vicious he was. And for him to not have that behavior before necessarily, like, or have a record or anything, because that level of that's overkill.
Yeah.
That level of overkill, that's fucking, you're fucked up somewhere in there.
One of the attorneys would go on later to say, like, he hated women. And they went into a lot of stuff with him during the trial, and I chose to leave all of that out because a lot of it was feel sorry for him. There are a lot of things saying...
There's a lot of people that get hurt, abused, assaulted, lied to, threatened every day, and not one of them murder.
Exactly. And I didn't really care to hear too much of his sob story. He said there were some things they said when they initially went to court, things they had enacted at the school that were slightly racist, but I'm like, you don't get to pull that card, buddy, because you did this. No, you're not going to say it's because you're black. No, you did. You raped and killed her. So stop it.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with your race. That's everything to do with your actions.
So I was like, I'm not going to cover too much on him because he's making me sick. So the campus doors were supposed to be locked every night. There were no guards or security checkpoints on the campus. Immediately after the murder, they did start making more patrols and enforcing people to keep the doors locked and not prop them open. The school did send out letters to the parents and students to be on the lookout and to walk in pairs. But what I have to say to that is too little too late. After the murder, the local assistant district attorney said that Henry hated women. Henry's attorney argued that he had a pathological alcoholism that made him violent when drunk. Henry was sentenced to death, but later received life without parole when he agreed to drop his appeals. So he tried all that same bullshit. Insanity, temporary insanity because the alcohol and yada, yada, yada. Boy, please. Nobody has time for you.
No.
Like you said, it takes a lot to be considered insane. And one of the key things is you have to know the difference between right and wrong. And the fact that you were an honor student going to college and had no prior incidents of anything, you knew the difference between right or wrong.
Yeah, this wasn't a lifelong plague situation of confusion.
Yeah. You didn't have... obviously, anybody who commits murders, in my opinion, has mental illnesses of some sort. But you didn't struggle with these, were never diagnosed with anything, never had any other incidents. So...
Like the casualness of it, too. Like oh, I forgot my wallet. Key. Let me go see if I can get it.
To, like, bite holes into her cheeks, like...
That's a whole
you are
level
a little crazy.
Of pathological issues there.
Yeah. The family sued the college for $25 million, contending university officials knew of the escalating crime rate and knew that the dorm doors were being propped open but didn't act. They also said the college officials should have known Henry's history of violence and alcohol abuse. But when they say that about his history of violence, again, there were... Besides just that party, him punching the hole in the wall, there were like a few episodes of him doing things like that, but he didn't do anything to a level of violence that I felt would have
indicated what he was about to do.
Right. Or was anything that, like, if you told about every college guy punching a hole in the wall.
That's every guy named Taylor.
For sure.
I mean, seriously.
I'm like, so, I mean, the alcohol abuse... Usually when he drank is when he would do the stuff like that, as most college guys do. So with him, I don't know. My opinion is I don't know that there was anything that could have forewarned about him, but the crime rate and all the other stuff should have been a full disclosure thing. They ended up settling out of court for a confidential sum, with the college promising to increase security, including adding access cards into the dorm. The family used the money that they got from the lawsuit to set up its advocacy organization, Security on Campus. They lobbied state legislations in Congress to require colleges to report campus crimes. Pennsylvania was the first state to mandate such crime reporting in 1998. Dozens of states followed. Congress officially passed the Jean and Clery Act in 1990, mandating that reporting of crimes on campus. Lawmakers and the family agonized over whether also to include off-campus crime. Ultimately, they decided to mandate on-campus reporting only to get the bill finalized into law. So basically, they were trying to get this in and wanting them to report the things outside of campus, but campus was like, why should we have to?
Yeah.
That didn't happen here. So the family could have kept fighting for it, but they wanted to get this shit enacted, so they decided to just go with what happens on campus.
Let's go the path of the least resistance to get this going.
Yeah. Connie Clery, who is now 84, said the law means everything to her. It means her life was not in vain. It has honored Jean in such a wonderful way by knowing that she is saving lives all over the country. She added, how much more can I ask for? So the Clery Act, we'll talk about that. The Clery Act requires colleges and universities that receive federal funding to disseminate a public annual security report, ASR, to employees and students every October 1st. This ASR must include statistics on campus crime for the preceding 3 calendar years, plus details about efforts taken to improve campus security. I actually came across all this and got interested because at my job, they sent out the annual ASR on October 1st. And so I'm nosy, was reading and looking at all the crimes and then seeing that it was because of the Clery Act. So then I wanted to know what the Clery Act was. And then I found out. So our particular report that we got on October 1st was pages and pages long.
Right.
And I work at a hospital, which is obviously not a college, but the hospital is a teaching facility. So therefore they fall into it as well.
Right.
So any hospitals that are teaching facilities have to send this out too. And they have to send it out on everything that's included in it was all the campus's parking lots. There's a campus park. I mean, anything at all.
Is it safe?
Right. And it is for the last 3 years. And it tells you the numbers of all the different incidences that took place.
That's good.
It is good.
That is a good way to honor her.
It is.
It's sad that we have these things like Amber Alerts in the Clery Act. There's always a terrible story attached to them, but they save lives.
They
Thousands
do.
of millions. Like,
And, well, I'll get to why I think it makes such a difference at the end. ASRs must also include policy statements regarding, but not limited to, crime reporting, campus facilities, security and access, law enforcement authority, incident of alcohol and drug use, and the prevention of / response to sexual assault, domestic or dating violence, and stalking. So I'm about to tell you everything that's on these. They include everything.
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 I'm in it. I want to know.
They're interesting to read, and I was, what all happened
Like, as soon as you told me your job had one, I was like, I need to know what's going on in the parking lots. What's going on here? What's going on there? I've never even been to this place, but I need to know. My bestie is safe.
Exactly. Institutions of higher education must include 4 distinct categories of crime in their ASR crime report. Offenses to include criminal homicide, murder, manslaughter, sexual assault, rape, fondling, incest, statutory rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, motor vehicle theft, arson, any hate crimes, any of the above mentioned offenses, and incidents of larceny, theft, simple assault, intimidation, destruction, damage, vandalism of property, domestic violence, dating violence, stalking, arrests and referrals for disciplinary action, weapon law violations, drug abuse violations, liquor law violations, crime reporting, geography, and availability. They make them tell everything that happened.
I heard you like statistics. I got statistics for your statistics.
The Clery Act crime reporting is not strictly limited to events that occur on the campus or within the campus building and residence. Institutions must include statistics for crimes that occur in any of these geographic locations. On campus, anywhere, on campus student housing, public property within campus bounds, public property immediately adjacent to the campus. Non-campus buildings and properties owned or controlled by the organization that are used for educational purposes and frequently used by the students, but not a part of the core campus, or those owned or controlled by a student organization officially recognized by the institution. So therefore, for instance, the hospital like I'm at, it is not the learning institution, but it is affiliated with the learning institution. Therefore, our parking garages are affiliated with people be stealing cars all the time out in parking garages.
Oh, really?
And they will send you a report about it when it happens, and then it's also on the ASR. Timely warnings and emergency notifications. When a crime covered by the Clery Act occurs, campus officials are required to evaluate if there is a serious or ongoing threat to the campus community to determine if a timely warning needs to be issued to all staff and students. So that's, if anybody that's ever been to college knows, you can sign up for the emergency alerts, and that is also because of the Clery Act. So you got a shooter on campus, you got...
sadly too common these days.
Anything happens while
Natural
you're there.
disasters, tornadoes, probably anything like thefts, sprees of thefts, people losing their catalytic converters.
Well, and they'll only send the emergency ones out if, say, the girl just ran to security and said a guy raped me in the library and they don't know where he is. So then the emergency alert gets sent out.
Or emergency alerts, yeah.
If it's, someone broke into the car, they don't send out, obviously, emergency alerts about that. But basically like an Amber Alert is the same with these. In the event of immediate significant danger to the health or safety campus community, e.g., weather, disease outbreak, campus officials may issue an emergency notification. This notification can include the entire campus or be limited to a specific area deemed to be at risk. The Act also includes victims' rights, options, and resources. Victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking have specific rights, options, and resources guaranteed to them by the Clery Act. So if it happened on campus got to take care of you.
Exactly.
They got to give you therapy, pay for all of it. That's all because this mama of this little girl wasn't fucking around.
No, she wasn't.
She was like, y'all gonna do a whole lot.
Yeah. Not nobody else's baby's gonna have, no one else should have to do this.
Yes. Prevention education is also part. Institutions are required to provide students and employees on an introductory and ongoing basis prevention and awareness programs on the crimes covered above. The programs must include material on bystander intervention and risk reduction aimed at recognizing the warning signs of these crimes. So they're like, you also going to learn how to prevent it, what we going to do to help you, and some education materials. She covered all the bases.
Because the more you know.
Student and employer rights. Institutions must provide victims of crimes covered above with a written explanation of their rights. These rights include the option for a relocation, change of housing, transportation, or academic course assignment. They also include access to counseling services, legal service, and law enforcement notification. So basically, too, if you're in a class and you got a stalker in there and you're halfway through and you don't want to lose your money, you can't drop without now getting a failing grade. Well, if it's because someone's in there fucking with you, they're not allowed to do that. No.
No.
Because what we're going to do is we're going to take care of people's bodies and minds. Is what her mama said.
So we're going to make this a safe space.
Disciplinary proceedings.
I wonder how many students aren't aware of this.
I am sure that they told me about this in the many times I went to college. But
this is like a wealth of resources in this thing.
It is. Yeah. And that was why I was like, this is an important thing to cover for people that are not aware.
Very much so. Look at you.
I know.
Just doing the Lord's work.
I am.
Every day.
Not all
saving lives.
Wear capes, ma'am.
In the hospital and on the podcast.
And on the streets.
On the streets.
All disciplinary proceedings must be conducted by trained parties at the institution, either individuals or panels of trained persons. Proceedings are required to be prompt, fair, and impartial, and must confer certain procedural rights to both the accuser and the accused. So, while the Clery family will never recover from losing their only daughter, only sister, a mother's best friend, a daddy's girl, I hope they find solace in knowing their daughter's death did make a difference. It makes campuses a safer place for women. The campus where I went on to get 2 degrees in healthcare and help numerous people. They made it a safer place for my daughter to go one day. And even though it's not a perfect process yet, and unfortunately crimes do happen, they brought attention to it. They brought accountability to the schools. They made sure these crimes and statistics are widely available. Because when the school isn't safe, people don't want to go. And when people don't want to go, there's no money. And if we are all honest, that's the best way to hit them.
Oh, yeah.
So while we know things still happen and things still get brushed under the rug and people are still not always held accountable, we've all heard about frat boys doing things to women and whatnot. Well, the good thing about this is it has to be reported, and you can't go around and do that as much anymore because it's going to be reported. And when people see it reported and they see your statistics are high, they're not going to go to your college and you're not going to make money. Mm-hmm. So therefore, you got to actually do something.
You really do.
Because otherwise, you ain't going to have an institution.
No.
Because no one's going to go there.
They'll be like, nah, hard pass.
So that was a short one for us, but I felt it was very informative and information that needs to be out there.
I wonder if they come up with statistics to see how much safer safety has been on a campus since this has enacted.
Oh, I'm sure that it has. And, if you Google it, every college in the world pops up with the link to it on their page. I actually had a hard time finding anything about Jean because everything was about the Clery
pointing
Act.
You towards the thing that they want you to,
Yeah. And I was like, I'm sure the parents have over the years steered the focus towards that and more away from her crime because
as we're living it.
Yeah. Well, and we want you all to not look at what happened to her, but look at what came from her to keep other people safe. So my sources were the clearycenter.org, AZ Central, Story, Arizona Investigates, LA Times, and Campus Killings Episode 1, Jean Clery. It's a podcast. I hope you all learned something.
I feel safer.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. And I'm glad to know those resources are out there. And so what we should learn from that is that when you go to orientation at the college, you should really pay attention to everything they say.
Okay. Oh, I don't know. Listen, there was open house one night at Camilla's school, and you go in and they have to tell you because her school's like a Title I school, and they have to read this whole spiel and everything. I get lost after 2 minutes. I don't have that kind of attention span. Okay.
Same.
And then she has to do the whole thing in Spanish because a lot of Camilla's school is Spanish's first language. So you're hearing this droll twice. I'm over I'm they give you papers with where things are and what we're doing that day, and I'm making origami out of them. like a real responsible parent.
Well, see, and that's what this podcast is for, because if you did know about this and your friends don't know about it and something's happened to somebody, you know that there's a whole act to hold that school accountable and responsible to offer you the services and the protection that you need. And don't be afraid to go up in there and say, I know about the Clery Act. You gonna help me.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly.
So if you two were also making origami during that any presentation, we'll definitely leave a link because this is important information to check out, especially
really
if there's a college student in your life. Are you a college student? I know we have some college students that listen to us.
And, you know, I know I pushed a lot, and you said, too, about protecting females. But this applies to males, too, because those crimes do happen to them as well.
Quite often, yes.
And it is even more underreported. And
both from the victim, and then it's not taken as serious by officials at times.
Yep.
There's still that stigma that men cannot be assaulted or abused in that way.
And if you think they're not going to take you serious when you report it and you're not going to get what you need, you know, you may be right, but you still need to report it because you need to make their statistics not so happy statistics.
I always think about it like that. If it happens to you, you better report it so it don't happen to somebody else.
Yep.
Or else you're just as much complicit in the act.
So see, unfortunately, I told you there wasn't going to be a lot of joking with this one.
You see something.
Say something.
Damn it. So you guys find us on our socials. Facebook, Instagram, all that jazz. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate us on all the platforms, every single one. The more visibility we get, the more possible that we can make this a full-time gig.
Yeah.
Like, instead of having one episode a week, you could like have like multiple episodes.
Okay. All right. Don't be pushing it too much there now, ma'am.
If we get to that point, we're going to have people helping us write.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Like, you know, last podcast, they always talking about their little researchers and stuff. And I'm like, I want a little gaggle of researchers.
Same.
We won't call them a gaggle. We'll call them a murder, like crows.
Ooh.
A little murder of researchers.
You know, while JJ's starting his new career option, I should have him writing my stories. But the thing is, he would probably write the story the same way he tells me a story when someone gives him some tea.
And you just start making some origami?
I'm like, where did it happen? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, who was involved? I don't know. Did they do this? I don't know. I'm like, did you ask anything? No. JJ, I need details. So that's probably how this would have been. Been a paragraph long, and I'd be like, JJ, I need more details.
I literally, when that accident happened last weekend, the neighbors were talking to me, and they were talking about going out and being nosy. I was like, listen, last time something happened in our neighborhood, I sent my husband. He didn't find a damn thing out.
Exactly.
Not a damn thing.
Now, he loves to hear the tea when I spill it because I got all the details. And I'll tell him, I'm like, oh, I got something to tell you about, you know, da-da-da. And he's like, ooh, hold on, let me get my coffee first.
There's this like old, this little young couple, and they have cameras in their house, which I will never understand the phenomenon of having cameras inside your house because I don't need to be videoed 24/7.
Well, you need to get cameras in your house in another year or two because when Camilla starts having little teen girls that
damn. Yeah, we're going to have to definitely get some We're going to be cameras every fucking winter in this bitch.
I don't need no little trifling hoes coming over saying some shit happened in the house that didn't happen in the house.
No.
Because I told him when Emma gets that age, I got 3 men in my home.
Yeah.
And
it's not worth
because you
the
say
risk.
Something, I'm gonna come back quick with roll that beautiful beam footage.
Roll the beautiful beam footage, and I'm gonna show you where my husband is too scared.
Too scared
of his own shadow. Bless
exactly.
Him. We even joked. I was like, you know, I bet you JJ just doesn't want to wake her up because he's probably scared of waking her up like Jimmy is scared of waking me up.
I'm actually not that bad, am I? Well, I hope you have a rollaway cot for JJ in the garage because he ain't coming home with me tonight.
Jimmy will come up with like worry, like, you know, when kids know they're gonna get in trouble and they're like, so like what happened was and like Jimmy, I'm like, oh, it's okay, and he's like, really? Wait, what? He's so ready for me to just be like this abusive wife.
The worst part about waking me up is when he wakes me up from a dead sleep and I think he's an intruder and I start screaming at him. But that's because I read, write, and visually see too much true crime every day.
I imagine him looking at you like adoringly and you open your eyes like,
That's exactly what I do and start swatting. So he like He needs a poker to poke me from a safe 5 feet away.
And see, like, I'm sure Emma is like you too, because Camilla's just like me. Waking her up is like waking a damn bear in the morning. You can't even turn the lights on full. You gotta turn those things down. We gotta set the mood to get ready for school. We got off topic. I just realized we're still recording.
That's all right. They need a little fluff every now and then.
There you
So
go.
until next time, stay safe.
Keep your head on a swivel.
And don't bring it too close to home. And don't be doing dirty shit on the campus, people.
Yes. Get some cameras for your homes too, though.
Absolutely.
And your campus.
Absolutely.
Guys, don't piggyback.
Don't.
Physical security is serious.
Yes.
Bye.
I don't even know what piggybacking means, dude. I just went with it.
If you enjoyed this episode of Too Close to Home, don't forget to rate and subscribe to us on most platforms. Follow us on our social media at Too Close Home Pod on Facebook, at Too Close Podcast on Instagram, or if you have your own Too Close to Home experience, shoot us your story at tooclosetohome@yahoo.com. Thanks for listening.